This video I going to give a information of Far Cry 6. Let's go. Far Cry 6 is an upcoming first-person shooter game developed by Ubisoft Toronto and published by Ubisoft. It is the sixth main installment of the Far Cry series for Amazon Luna, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and Stadia. The game is set to be released on October 7, 2021. The game is set on Yara, a fictional Caribbean island ruled as a dictatorship by El Presidente, Anton Castillo, portrayed by Giancarlo Esposito, who is raising his son Diego, Anthony Gonzalez, to follow in his rule. The player takes the role of guerrilla fighter Dani Rojas, attempting to topple Castillo and his regime. Gameplay: Far Cry 6 is an action-adventure first-person shooter game. Gameplay follows from previous Far Cry games, with players using makeshift weapons, vehicles, and hiring amigos, the new Fangs for Hire system, to topple the tyrannical regime. Setting: Far Cry 6 takes place on the fictional Caribbean island of Yara, which is inspired by Cuba and described as the largest Far Cry playground to date, and a tropical paradise frozen in time. It is ruled by El Presidente, Anton Castillo, Giancarlo Esposito, a fascist dictator with full control over the island. Castillo is guiding his son Diego, Anthony Gonzalez, who is unsure of his own future, to follow in his footsteps. Esposito described his character as a leader, trying to empower the people to understand that they need strong leadership now, but is stuck in the middle of a revolution. Esposito further added that, his father was a dictator before him and he wants to empower the people to take their country back. His goal is to use the resources that they have within the country to survive without allowing outsiders to come in and co-opt their scientists, their intellectual property, all of these things. Esposito continued that Anton is trying to empower his son to take up his mantle and really embrace ideas that would allow him to see that soon he will probably be the next leader in this country. The player takes the role of a local Yaran named Dani Rojas, a former soldier in the Yaran Armed Forces turned guerrilla soldier fighting for freedom who attempts to restore their nation to its former glory. The player can select Dani's gender at the start of the game. Development production of Far Cry 6 had been ongoing for 4 years at the time of its July 2020 announcement, with Ubisoft Toronto the lead studio for the game. Narrative director Navid Kavari said that they started researching revolutions of the past. They came across the idea of the modern guerrilla revolution such as the Cuban Revolution, which gave them numerous ideas of how to drive the player character into fighting against a repressive government. This also brought back the need to give the player character, Dani Rojas, a voice, compared to recent Far Cry games in which the protagonist had been silent. Kavari said, "It was essential for us to ensure that the protagonist has a personal investment in that revolution." Using Cuba as an influence also established the return to a tropical setting, a feature of the earlier Far Cry games, as well as giving the setting a timeless look due to economic blockades that had been imposed on the island, mixing vintage cars with modern weapons. Kavari spent a month in Cuba, speaking to residents there to help develop the setting. In contrast to the media controversy over Ubisoft distancing its stance that Far Cry 5 was made as a political statement, Kavari said that Far Cry 6 was political, and that a story about a modern revolution must be. While the game's narrative element is based on stories around Cuba, Kavari stated that the game doesn't want to make a political statement about what's happening in Cuba specifically, nor that it attempts to make a simplified, binary political statement specifically on the current political climate in Cuba. Kavari's family had experienced the Iranian Revolution in the late 1970s, eventually having fled to Canada, and using these experiences, those from Cuba, and from other research that Ubisoft had done, he wanted Far Cry 6 to have a story about the conditions that lead to the rise of fascism in a nation, the costs of imperialism, forced labor, the need for free and fair elections, LGBTQ+ rights, and more. Word of a new Far Cry game was teased in early July 2020, as actor Giancarlo Esposito has mentioned he had recently taken part in a huge video game, including voice work and motion capture. Shortly after this, rumored leaks of Far Cry 6's existence appeared, including screens that showed a character resembling Esposito. Ubisoft affirmed the game's existence a few days ahead of the full announcement through social media, and fully revealed the game on July 12, 2020, during their Ubisoft Forward online event. Additionally, Anthony Gonzalez voices and provides the character model and motion capture for Diego. Esposito and Gonzalez had done the motion capture and voice work for the game's trailer before shooting any of the footage for the game's narrative, as this gave the developers the time to create the character models for the game itself. For Esposito, he had been interested in the motion capture facets of the role, as he had done some for the cancelled Mouseguard film and was interested in doing more, as well as his interest in the type of character that Ubisoft had created for him. Cavari said they had provided Esposito background material to help prepare before recording for the game, and upon these sessions, he found that Esposito had done so much research already based on the material that we sent him. He brings an amazing empathy to his characters, and he brought that same empathy to Anton that I wasn't expecting. Pedro Bronfman composed the music for the game. The game was originally scheduled for release on February 18, 2021, on Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Stadia and Amazon Luna. On October 29, 2020, Ubisoft announced that the release will be delayed due to impacts from the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. During Ubisoft's quarterly earnings call in February 2021, the company announced that the game would be released before September 30, 2021. As part of further gameplay reveals on May 28, 2021, Ubisoft also announced the planned release date for Far Cry 6 as October 7, 2021. As part of the game's Season Pass, additional content will include new story episodes letting the player take on the role of the antagonists of the last 3 Far Cry games: Voss Montenegro from Far Cry 3, Pagan Min from Far Cry 4, and Joseph Seed from Far Cry 5. Further, the Season Pass will include an updated version of Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon. Additional free content will feature a guest appearance by Danny Trejo, a Rambo-inspired mission, and a crossover mission with Stranger Things. Do like, share and subscribe to our channel.